But what a challenge that you face, because not only are you physically immobilized, but obviously the voice has to be difficult, that sort of slurry thing. The thing that impressed me so much about it, the characterization of Christie, is that he is not a figure of pity because there's such vitality to him. I mean, because he's a very sexy man. And you get the feeling, even that scene with the nurse who was about to be, will later become his wife, and so on. Yeah. So that you did have those various colors to play with, it seems.
Yes. I suppose really at the very center of his life, and consequently at the very center of the script, and in our intention at the center of the film, is this ferocious desire to communicate. And I suppose it's too easy in a way to see it in metaphorical terms, but of course Christie as a creator does represent the struggle to overcome, to allow the imagination to fly from the bondage of the body and so on, and that's something that's very easy to recognize in the ferocity with which he attacked his life. He was capable of self-pity, of course, like everyone at times, but he wasn't a self-pitying man. And his great battle was in trying to release his imagination, to communicate. And really, even though the difficulties that he had to overcome may have been more severe, greatly more severe than most of us, the battle was the same one that we all fight.
How did you prepare for the role? I mean, just physically, because I gather you got in this contorted position, I mean, early in the day, and then just sort of retained it through the end of the day. It must have been just physically extremely difficult.
As far as possible, I've always tried to remain unspecific about the way in which I prepared for the film. I mean, I love to find out about those things myself, and I have a great appetite for that information, and there's a market for it, I know, and I love to know how people arrived at the place at which you find them. But it seemed very important to me when I was taking on the work that it didn't become a film about a supposedly able-bodied actor reducing himself, because I chose a course of working that involved, to some extent, trying as far as possible to understand. I mean, it was the only way that I could understand, or try to understand, some of the problems that Christie was confronted with.
Well, as a critic, I mean, I've always felt that maybe the paradox of acting is that although you know the actor, nevertheless, you surrender that knowledge, and the actor, if he's doing the work wonderfully well, becomes the person impersonated, you might say. And the acting, which is perceived as acting, has failed to that extent.
Absolutely.
It just seems to me that I guess what I was asking almost rhetorically is that you ceased to be Daniel Day-Lewis and you became Christie Brown.
Well, that of course is the substance of the work. That's it. That's all. That is the only work you have to do to find a way of, particularly when, I mean, if one were to break down the film into the sort of various problems that one was presented with, of course there would be a number of technical difficulties. You could itemize the obvious difficulties in doing it, but the point that you have to arrive at before you can even think about beginning the film is the point where where those matters of long ago lost their importance. Of course, the day in which the film starts the camera starts to turn is not the first day of the film, and the time that you spend before it has to be the most important time. I think probably one of the greatest problems is to actually shut down areas of awareness and understanding, and there must have been a part of my subconscious mind, at any rate, that recognized that I had the possibility of walking at the end of every day, and that's an area of acknowledgement that has to be shut down.
You have to presume that you can't walk at the end of
the day. Of course, yeah.
And I would have thought over the course of that role, more than most, certainly your perceptions about that person must grow. I mean, you must have known so much more about Christy Brown at the end of the filming than you did at the beginning.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We could talk a long time about The Unbearable Lightness of Being, which I thought was, again, different from A Room with a View, in which you were this sort of Victorian, foppish dandy, a little bit supercilious, perhaps, and My Beautiful Laundrette, where you were a punk, and, you know, so it's really, you've really covered quite a remarkable spectrum, you know, and then, coming to each of them, well, the same kind of intensity, quite obviously. We have another clip from the film in the family setting, and I thought, let's look at that and then talk about some of the cast you were surrounded with in my left.
Good.
You have a look at this. Christy, it may be a grey paint-up, but you'll never be a brickie. Right, lads. You bring in some more bricks. Mix up a bit of muck. Bring me in me level, will you? Brown and Son contractors are on the job. Here, you start over there, I'll start over here, and by the time you have 3 courses up there, I'll be finished here, and I'll be inside having me tea.
Not at all.
What? What? Oh, what? I'm not beaten yet, be jaded.
Listen, Brian, boys, listen to me. Let your father win.
What?
He needs this.
Yeah.
Take it easy, Father, will you?
Take it easy. Here, I was never able to take it easy. And you, of all people, ought to know that. Right, lads? That's her finished. They've a long way to go to be a better man than their father.